So this is the dent in my 2016 JK two-door Sport. A fellow backed into this when he was trying to get out of a tight parking space. And as a result, I have this. So naturally, I went to YouTube, and I must have looked at several videos on how to repair these things, and decided to try to use a technique that Polyvalence used to blow this molded plastic back into shape. And basically what they did was to make a cut in this part of the bumper. If this part had been open, then it wouldn't be a problem, because all you'd have to do is take your hand and just push the thing out. But for some reason, this part is completely enclosed. There's a little drain hole down here at the bottom, but it's otherwise completely enclosed. And what they did was to make a window in this. You look for an area that is completely hollow to make sure you don't break the seam up here. So you tap. That's dense. Hollow. 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 And then dense. So make the sled here, use that opening to then push out the dent. But at the same time, I found that most people had success when they used a heat gun to open up, to rather heat up this area. Careful not to do too much in the center, but mostly around the sides. It's where the buckling occurs, here and here, that you have to get out, because once that pops out, everything else pops out. So simultaneously, while heating the perimeter, take a blunt handle or broomstick handle and insert it through the opening that you've made, and then smooth out the dent. And that's what I'll try to do and see if it works. What they used, instead of a saw, they used a regular cutting knife or box cutter kind of knife, and they just kept sliding it back and forth until they were able to open up that area. And then the question should be, what are you going to do after you have that hole in here? Well, I guess it wouldn't be a problem just leaving it open, but what they did was to seal it by melting the plastic and applying some type of glue. So basically, if you make a slanted cut, you could just put that piece in there and put some Gorilla Glue around it, and that should hold it. But we'll see. We'll see how this operation goes. The other thing that people have done is to not cut a hole in the back and drill a pilot hole here, and then put in a wood screw with a lot of thread on it, and try to just pull it out with a pair of pliers. And again, without using a heat gun, they have not been very successful. The problem that I wanted to avoid was putting in pilot holes, because some of them would, for instance, put a pilot hole here and get some of it out. Then they'd have to put a pilot hole here and then one up here, so you end up with 3 holes that you have to patch. So if this works well, the way I'm going to do it, then you can avoid having holes in here and then having it patched and having to sand it down and then put in some black automotive silicone and all that. Of course, if my technique doesn't work, then I'll have to consider that. And then some of the commenters in some of these videos have said that they'd prefer to just go ahead and get another aftermarket plastic bumper, which involves taking the front bumper completely off and then exchanging the metal bumper part with the tow hooks into the aftermarket bumper and then reassembling it. But that would also involve taking this plastic dam off and removing this plate. Some of the people who've purchased the aftermarket bumpers have said online that it was a snap job to do, but all of us aren't that mechanically inclined, so I'm opting to do it this way. So now I've removed the paint and I've started to make the little square. And what I plan to do is to go all the way through on 3 sides and then flip the patch up so that once I do the final cut, the patch won't fall inside the bumper. Because I plan to reuse this and just apply some glue after I finish. So basically I've just been going along with the utility knife and just cutting along this area. So at this point, I have 3 sides of the square loose. And I just want to very carefully weaken the top part, but try to keep that in place because that'll make it easier for gluing it back into place. But as you can see, I can lift this now. So I'm just going to make a little more passes through this area to weaken it up just enough to raise it up as a flap, and hopefully it'll stay like a hinge, and that way I can just simply place that in, put some glue around it, and move on. So I'll keep working at that and then we'll see what happens with the flap. Now I have the flap so that I can move it up and put a blunt instrument through there in order to push out the bumper, hopefully. Now it's on to getting the heat gun out and a blunt stick like the end of a broomstick or any blunt instrument and see if we can pop this thing out. And just to make sure that I don't lose that plastic thing or it won't fall inside, I put a little bit of masking tape up there. So now, with the opening already established, I'll use the blunt end of the hammer, insert it in here, and then when the plastic softens with the heat gun, we'll see if that will make this dent pop out. Now what they say is to heat the outside because this is what holds the dent in. So I will be moving the heater gun around this way and then in this area here and see if that'll pop out. If you heat just the concavity here and you keep heating it, you could just break the whole thing and punch a hole in this area. So all that you want to do is soften those areas which are supporting the dent. And we'll see how that works. Voila, look at that. That is nice. Almost imperceptible. There's a slight concavity here, but no one would notice that. I'll see if I can just push that out a little more also. I think I'll quit while I'm ahead. That looks nice. All of you YouTubers who offered your advice on how to repair these dents in these Jeep bumpers, I really appreciate it, because following you all, I was able to essentially restore this to almost normal. This is amazing. Now all that remains is to superglue the little flap door in the back, and then that'll be it, and we're done.